Welcome here to the HuskerOnline Postgame Show. Sean Callahan, Robin Washett. We're doing our best to get going here on the road. We knew it would be a challenge getting the show off the ground on the road, but we wanted to join you tonight, especially after the big win at Rutgers. Sean Callahan, Robin Washett, Steve Sipple. Nebraska wins 14-13, gentlemen, as we try to break this one down here at a very empty SHI Stadium. By the way, they called it a sellout tonight. I'm not sure it was sold out in here, but it was a raucous environment, and Nebraska found a way to get the win here. They're now, if you can believe it, 3-3 overall.
That's right, Sean. 3-3. 2-1 in the Big Ten.
2-1 in the Big Ten Conference. Going out to West Lafayette now for some meaningful football. I mean, it's really, you think about where this was at, guys, after the Oklahoma game. To be where we're at tonight, and granted, it's a win over Rutgers, but to be at this point, it really is pretty amazing.
I mean, wins are wins at this point. This is a program that has not experienced 2 weeks of good vibes in a long time, especially when it comes to Big Ten play. So you can say what you want about the opponent. Look at what Nebraska is. I mean, for them to do this says a lot about just their growth over the course of the last few weeks, over the bye and then these last two games. Like you said, Sean, just a few weeks ago, this season was dead in the water. We were thinking about just the dreading making it through November, just how ugly this thing was going to get. Well, now here they are. They're 500, and they're 3 wins away from going to a bowl game, and they're currently, as we speak tonight, in first place in the Big Ten West.
Well, yeah.
Think about that. Think about how much the narrative has shifted in the span of 3 weeks.
Oh, it's not just 3 weeks. I mean, you go back to Georgia Southern. I mean, Georgia Southern put 642 yards on Nebraska in Memorial Stadium, and now Nebraska's defense is shut out in the second half. 2 Big Ten teams, two second half shutouts. Last week against Indiana, shut out. Rutgers shut out in the second half tonight. Again, this is a team that gave up 642 yards to Georgia Southern.
That couldn't stop anything.
We got to figure that out this week, guys. I mean, we do. We got to figure out what the hell happened against Georgia Southern, and why they've been able to crank it down these last 2 weeks.
Think about this. Oklahoma was on pace to have over 700 on Nebraska.
Yeah.
And then they called the dogs off. It was 355 in the first half on Nebraska that OU had. And even tonight, no Tommy Hill at corner, no Quentin Newsom.
Yeah, Tommy Hill got benched, right?
He's
playing receiver, but, all new corners.
Quentin Newsom has a hamstring.
Groin, I thought.
But, my bad, Rob.
Mickey
Rob.
in postgame said he
Mickey
thought
said
it was
groin.
a groin.
You talked to Mark?
He wasn't definitive, yeah. Talk to Mark.
That's the joke. Every time there's an injury, Mickey always goes, you got to talk to Mark.
Well, Mickey's a little more forthcoming with injury news. And yeah, he did say he thinks it's a groin on Quentin Newsom. So yeah, they're out there with when did Brandon Moore get to town, Sean?
Well, he got here in August. I mean, he joined the team. He joined the team in the middle of training camp. He was with the team, when training camp started, and came in at the last minute.
So he's playing corner.
6-year senior, but
25.
If you study his history, he was a playmaker. In their win at Navy, he made the key play to help Scott Frost's 2017 team win at Navy in a big game. He was always a playmaker at UCF, but you didn't know what you were going to get. But he's a walk-on, so you had a walk-on 25-year-old.
25 years old.
And an 18-year-old freshman from Mississippi playing at corner.
At corner, so you got a corner that's 25 on one side. I mean, legitimately, he'd be 3 years in the NFL. I mean, there's guys that aren't 25, obviously in the NFL. And Hartzog on the other side was 18. It's amazing.
Yeah, and both of them came up with critical interceptions in this game. For the two 4-game starters, that one's not even on defense anymore, at least that we think, and then Quentin Newsom was hurt. That was a real issue, and another game that could have been a much bigger situation. The good news for them was Rutgers had a lot of difficulty throwing the football. Obviously, Noah Vedral still being hurt with that thumb injury, kind of really limited that passing game. But they came up with the big plays. Brandon Moore jumped that pass in the third quarter when Rutgers was all the way down to Nebraska's 36-yard line. They were about to make that a 2-score game, and he gets that interception. Nebraska didn't score, but it kind of kept the tie.
Stemmed the tide.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, with 48 seconds left, Malcolm Hartzog seals the win with the pick to put it away. So, two very unexpected characters on this defense come up with critical plays, and one of the bigger wins this program's had in a while.
Think about that. If I would have told you in Dublin, Ireland, that Malcolm Hartstug and Brandon Moore
Go ahead, Sean.
would make game-changing interceptions to win a Big Ten football game. I mean, like, if there was a prop bet on that, it would have been like 1,000 to 1, maybe more. I mean, like those. Just to put it into perspective, I mean, the odds on those guys doing that, it's unheard of. I mean, it's insane how much this defense has turned around in just some of these areas with a few tinkers here and there by Bill Bush.
Yeah, I wonder how much. I don't know if I'd characterize it as just tinkers when they benched Tommy Hill.
Yeah.
I mean, they benched Tommy Hill. I mean, he changed positions. I mean, that's not tinkering. You pulled a major lever there. Now, it's an odd thing. Now, people are probably wondering, what are you guys talking about? Tommy Hill warmed up with the receivers tonight.
Yeah.
I don't think he got on the
Didn't
field.
play.
Didn't play.
Special
He was still
teams.
kick returner,
Yeah.
but he didn't play an offensive.
And Tommy Hill, he's a pretty good corner. Now, he struggled badly this year. So he's on offense now. Quentin Newsome, again, groin. I don't know what his prognosis is.
Yeah, that's to be determined.
Yeah.
That's pretty notable, too, especially with Purdue
Oh, God,
coming
yeah.
up. That passing game is going to be far better than anything they've seen the last 2
Yeah.
weeks.
Well, Aiden O'Connell, we'll watch him tomorrow and see how he looks health-wise, because
They play at Maryland.
and that's a
It's
tough
a good
game.
Maryland team.
Yeah,
Like, he's going to get hit in that game.
yeah.
So
Nebraska should hope he gets hit really hard.
speaking of
But
getting
not
hit,
too hard.
Yeah.
speaking of getting hit really hard, I mean, how about Casey Thompson? I mean,
Yes.
what he did,
Let's talk about Casey.
standing up in the pocket, and he only got sacked. That was one of the more surprising stats. He only took 1 sack.
2.
Oh, I wouldn't.
They only charged him with 1.
Oh, I thought he had 2 sacks. I thought
Yeah, I'm just going off with a stat sheet.
Okay,
so.
all right.
Stats said once. Rutgers was only credited with 1 sack
Okay,
and
I'm
2
sorry.
hurries.
Okay.
But it felt like much more.
Sure did.
I mean, it felt like,
He got knocked around.
it felt like he took a beat. I mean, he took a beating. That offensive line is what it is. But he made an interesting comment after the game. He knew that pass rush wouldn't be like that in the third, fourth quarter.
Hold on. I thought it was sort of funny what he said. If you think about it, he said he thought at halftime Rutgers pass rushers were maybe tiring out. I just thought they're tiring out because they're getting so many free
He
lanes.
gets winded from knocking him to the turf.
I mean, I didn't know he wasn't trying to be funny, but I sort of got a kick out of that.
I mean, their edge guys look like drag racers coming
Right.
off the edge.
Right.
It's like the Simpsons episode where Homer's the boxer and like he doesn't actually fight back. He just gets punched in the face until the other guy gets tired and falls over. I think that's what Casey was trying to do there.
Right.
Just basically just take one punch after another and just be the last man standing.
The analogy king is Sean.
That
That was
might
good
win.
though. That was really good. That was really good.
Well, yeah, Casey Thompson, makes the key throw. And there
The
was
key
some,
throw to Trey Palmer.
Trey Palmer to take the lead, and the throw to Travis Vokalek.
Yeah.
I mean, those were the 2 throws for Nebraska that won this game. I mean, the only throws. I mean, the semblance of the running game. I mean, Anthony Grant's long run was 7 yards.
Yeah, they couldn't get
And-
much going.
I kept saying Rob would get mad at me, but I kept saying I said it 100 times in the press box. Grant's legs look heavy to me. He looks like he may be wearing down a little bit.
He's carried a big workload.
Right. Sean, it looked like his legs were heavy. Now, you could tell when Gant came in, Gant's legs looked live. So that's how you can tell
Well, 32 carries,
last week.
and against a physical Indiana team will do that to you.
Yeah.
On a short week coming back. So
Yeah.
that was a big question for me going in was would he be able to replicate that? And clearly there was a bit of a fatigue factor there.
I think there
Anthony
was.
Grant.
I don't know, maybe Anthony Grant would say, no, I wasn't tired.
I'm
His
sure
legs,
he wouldn't.
his legs looked heavy.
He didn't have that burst.
No, and I would, if I were Applewhite, I'd keep him off his feet all week.
Okay.
I'd keep him off his feet all week. I
So-
wouldn't practice it.
We also talked about this, and with that situation being what it is and Yant's relative inexperience, especially this season, where was Gabe Irvin?
I don't know.
I mean,
Didn't
the
come
clear
in the
cut,
game.
number 2. He was here warming up. He was on.
Was he?
He was in pads, but he didn't play.
We
And
should have
so,
asked that question.
that's certainly something to follow up on. Why
Yes.
wasn't he more involved? Especially when us know nothings in the press box can see that Anthony Grant was clearly a step slower than what he had been earlier.
And Ramir Johnson didn't travel.
No.
So, the running back situation, that number 2 spot's getting harder to kind of figure out. A.J. Allen's loss, I mean, how would you, I mean, A.J. Allen would have made a big difference,
Absolutely.
probably.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Having him,
oh, God, yeah.
I mean, the drop-off from him to the other guys, it's significant.
Yeah, no, you're right. A.J. Allen, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up. This is where you really miss A.J. Allen.
Because maybe he finishes the fourth quarter with
Right.
you, and that was the hard part. Nebraska was. I mean, they managed. I was impressed with how they managed the clock. I thought Scott Frost, that was not a strength. I mean, we can agree on that. Like, he was not a good clock manager late in the game. I thought Mickey Joseph, for really being one of the first times in his head coaching career having in that situation, he milked those seconds down, took time out. I mean, he really did a good job.
Did a good job at the end. Yeah.
The end of the first half, though, was a bit questionable. Casey Thompson gets hurt, leaves the game. They bring in Chuba, and rather than just run the ball and go into halftime down 13, they throw it.
Mhm.
He's bad at the line, and they throw it again, or they run it again, and Rutgers calls a timeout, and they have a minute left. And I think it was like less than a 20-second possession with like just over a minute left to play, and they gave Rutgers a chance to try to kick a field goal to make it a two-score game going into half. So,
And that was big as we now look at the final score.
yeah, absolutely. And so,
Yeah, no, they missed it.
it
Well, it was a
wasn't perfect.
58-yard.
The time management wasn't perfect,
No,
but
that-
certainly at the end when it mattered the most, I thought they did about as well as you possibly could.
All right, if you're just joining us here, Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett, we are in SHI Stadium in Piscataway. It's, what is it here, about 1:35,
It's 1:30.
1:39.
and we've been assured that we will be able to get out of the press box. And
Yeah.
that's a fear. I mean, Robin and I have been stranded in San Diego in a press box. I think we've hopped some fences
Tall fences.
and ripped some pants.
Rip some pants.
I mean, you try hopping a stadium
Yeah,
fence.
so I stopped wearing dress pants to games. I need to be more agile.
But we were assured that we can get out of here. Now,
Yeah.
I was a little concerned when the guard said that they can walk us to our car if you're concerned about walking to your car.
Yeah, we got kind of a long walk.
I'm not worried about walking to my car.
We can fight.
We watched
Boxes, like, we'll be
we
fine.
watched Mickey Joseph get his team ready for a fight tonight.
Yeah, we should give credit to Mickey Joseph. We should give credit to Bill Bush. We should give credit to Travis Fisher as the coaches. That's the guys that come to mind first. Mickey, I was struck by Mickey as the team came out for warm-ups in the second half. He was out on the field exhorting those guys. I don't know what exactly he was saying, but you could tell what he was doing. He was just trying to keep them, keep their dollars up, keep fighting. I thought it was a miserable first half for Nebraska.
It was.
I didn't. I mean, we're sitting here talking about a win, and in the first half, I thought
It was a national TV disaster for Nebraska.
It was messy.
It was kind of like, oh, this is gross.
They got So what was gross? They got a punt blocked. Casey threw 2 interceptions. They were 1 for 6. on
Pass
third down.
interferences on offense.
There were
Starting quarterback
holdings.
got hurt.
Yeah, it was Nebraska's.
Yes, got sent to the locker.
Yeah, he got sent to the
knocked
locker.
out of the game.
Yeah, he got knocked out of the game. 1 for 6 on third
Your
down.
former backup quarterback, Noah Vedral, comes in
Opening drive.
and scripts a drive right down your throat.
Nebraska had 6 penalties in the first half. Yeah, it was messy. It was messy. And I didn't think they'd come back. But here's what happened. Slowly, well, you know what happened? Nebraska came out in the third quarter and marched. They got that opening touchdown to Vokalek, right? Early in the third quarter, after Anthony Grant, tired legs and all, lowered the boom on that Rutgers
Rutgers
DB.
sideline there.
You
Lowered the
forget
boom.
about that play. That was
Yeah,
a
I didn't
huge
forget
play.
about it because I thought it was sort of a tone setter in the second half.
Kind
Now
of
that-
woke him up a little bit.
Yeah.
On the Rutgers sideline too, right?
Yeah, and if you look at that play, it was vicious. It was a clean play, but that was vicious. He's a tough dude.
I mean, that was a dude that went to 2 JUCOs in New Mexico military and said, I'm freaking New Jersey, and I'm not going to lose this football game.
Right, yes, exactly right.
Yeah, so the offense did what it needed to, sustain drives, got some points to kind of get that monkey off their back, but then the defense.
42 yards. Rutgers
The
had
defense took control of the game.
Rutgers had 42 yards in the third quarter.
85 in the second half.
Oh boy. See, that's the defense.
After giving up 263 in the first half.
Oh, that's-
85 total yards and 3 takeaways in the second half.
Oh, boy.
Well, and
That's it.
okay, the key moment I thought was when they blocked that punt. And if Rutgers should have picked that up and scored.
Yeah,
And Blaze Gunnarsson
Gunnarsson.
somehow slipped in there, saved the tackle.
yeah, good job.
And
Sean.
then
4-point tackle.
then the 3 and out, the defense had it was inside the 10-yard line, and they kicked a field goal there. if it's 14-0, and then you're kicking off in that situation,
Oh, trouble.
putting the offense back out there after that moment, I think the game's different. And I think the way the defense stood up, said, no, we're not going away yet.
They kept doing that tonight.
And the offense played awful. You know, they couldn't run the ball. They couldn't protect.
Right.
They were getting offensive pass interference penalties on big plays. I mean, there were a lot of things early. Casey threw 2 picks. I mean, that they had to overcome. And the defense, once again, settled in.
They did.
Now, I will continue to say this was a really bad Rutgers offense. I mean, their quarterback play was
Let me get some stats here.
pretty bad. You know, I mean, obviously with Noah being hurt and just the rotation that they had, that was probably as bad a quarterback play as Nebraska's going to see all season, the rest of the way, in my opinion. And so, take that for what it is, but the reality is Nebraska's defense was put in some very difficult positions. They were on the field a lot, and each time they answered the call, especially in the second half when they had to. Otherwise, the game would be over. And so, you can say what you want about the level of competition they were facing and how bad Rutgers' offense and quarterback play may have been. Either way, Nebraska got the job done. They slammed the door on Rutgers in the second half and completely turned the course of the game.
Yeah, they went and won a Big Ten road game. I mean, that's the balance to this.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of balance to that conversation.
Baby
but
steps.
One of the things is they went on the road on a Friday night on a short week and beat Rutgers. And that, you do tip your cap to the leaders. And I'm not just saying coaching staff, I'm saying players. The Garrett Nelson, the Travis Vogelek, and Casey. I'm saying Casey. Casey leads by example really well. He's very poised. You know, Rob, I mean, he gets smacked.
Yeah.
And then he still is able to regroup and hit Trey Palmer on a pass like that. That was a beautiful pass.
Look how, I'm looking at the passing progression chart, but when Casey gets hot, he gets hot. He goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in a row. He
Is
connects.
that right?
And then he throws the pick, but then he goes 3 out of 4 here. But then, they were able to get the touchdown pass to Vogelek. But the way he closed, he completed his final 4 passes in a row and went 5 out of 6 to close the game.
Yeah, there you go.
It
There you go, Sean.
starts with that Vogelek 2nd and 10 for 7, the 4th and 1 run they didn't get. That was a tough situation there when they didn't get that 4th and 1.
It was a tough. They went empty.
Yeah.
That raised a lot of eyebrows, Sean. That 4th and 1 when they went empty. He threw the ball to Marcus Washington, who was maybe. After I watched it again, Rob, it would have been a tough catch. That guy got his hand. The defender covered him well. Got his hand in there.
So after the game, Casey talked about that. He said even he was somewhat questioning the call as they broke the huddle. He was like, wait a minute, we're going empty? We're going to throw the ball on 4th and 1? And then he saw the way that it lined up, and it made sense to him. So, he thought the play was there. They just didn't execute it. So take it for what it is. I'm sure in retrospect they would have done something different. But as far as what they wanted to do on that play, they got the look that they wanted. The route that they wanted was there. They just didn't complete the
There's a
pass.
pride factor in this fan base too. On 4th and 1, you just want to see him line up.
Nebraska should be able to just pound the football.
Bring 2 tight ends in,
Yeah.
3 tight ends, whatever. Do what you got to do.
Especially when you got Anthony Grant in the backfield. I don't care how tired his legs are. You saw he's got the pop. He could have got you a yard, in my opinion.
Guys, I also Noah Vedral came back tonight for his first time against Nebraska, and I thought the game changed with him in there too. He had those 2 fade routes deep, the 33 and the 34 yard. Then he went one.
Against Arts.
Then he went 1 of 9 on his next throws, with the only completion being the 43-yard screen where Caleb Tanner missed the tackle. So at that point, he might have been on some numbing or pain medications to kind of get him juiced up to play early. Whatever the adrenaline wore off, and I think when the game settled in, Noah Vedral was not effective. He couldn't throw the ball, didn't have a grip on the ball, and that 1 of 9 stretch is kind of a critical point where Nebraska was able to get some momentum, because Noah Vedral gave them the spark early with those 2 passes, the 21-yard touchdown run, and then after that he was really ineffective.
Yeah, it made Rutgers one-dimensional. So Nebraska could just key in on the run, and they did a good job.
Pretty good
For
job.
the most part, especially in the second half of defending the line of scrimmage and wrapping up. They missed a lot of tackles early.
Yeah.
That first half, there was some just stiff arms where
Yeah, linebacker, one of Nebraska's linebackers got stiff armed twice early in the game, and it was sort of a tone setter for Rutgers, in Rutgers' favor.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say the linebacker, but twice. And then, Sean got,
Come on.
well, he's getting paid a lot of money.
That's right.
Sean got stiff armed to the ground. I
mean,
mean,
he made a nice sack though.
yeah, and he got that tip ball late too.
And God, I couldn't believe the officials missed that. Like
The
they,
tip.
Yeah.
like I was standing right there, and it was obvious that ball was tipped. And they called a pass interference.
Right.
I mean, it was. Let's call it what it is. It was another questionable Big Ten crew that had way too much impact in the game. I mean, just presence. Like
4 OPIs in a game, 3 in the first half. Like,
4 OPIs.
come on.
That's
And at least 2 or 3 of those were questionable on both sides.
Yeah.
just a lot of stoppages.
Yeah.
And this,
I agree, Sean.
the way the way the official stops the players and was putting her hand on the guy, it was just too much. Like I mean, just let the guys play. And how do you not see a ball deflected in the?
Yeah, I know.
mean,
Yeah,
like,
we saw it.
I mean, they're a lot closer. I mean, it was obvious, and they had to go to review on that, which is shocking.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the good news, Nebraska's had 2 very questionably officiated games, and Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren has been in attendance for both of them. So if there was anybody that was in the house that could do something about it, Kevin could probably do something.
Guys, and Noah Vedral didn't just struggle. Evan Simon, when he came in, he was one of his last 9 with the 19-yard completion. Those were his final 9 throws. He threw 3 picks in those final 9 throws. I mean, he was
3 being from, Brandon, Miles Farmer, and Hartzog at the end. Yeah.
Farmers was the biggest of all.
so Simon was sacked twice, picked off 3 times down the stretch. I mean, they couldn't throw. I mean, they really couldn't throw.
Yeah, that's just big. Those dudes came up. I mean, the Farmer pick was gigantic. Set up Nebraska, and then boom, on the next play, Casey hits Palmer, who ran by the corner. Safety bit on something else. Safety wasn't there, so they knew too. Casey knew the safety's eyes were trained on the
tight end.
locked in on the tight end, and Casey knew Palmer could run by their corner. He did. They know, they know Palmer can run by those corners. They knew Palmer could run by those corners.
I mean, Palmer can run by anyone. He's a 10-2 guy.
I'm gonna say not anyone,
Most guys.
but a lot of guys.
When he gets open stride, how many guys in the Big Ten run 10-2?
I don't know.
Not very many.
There's corners are pretty fast.
They could win the state championship in the 100 meters in Louisiana.
Yeah, he's fast.
He could run.
Yeah.
I like his odds against most corners,
Yeah.
I'll say that.
Drew, joining us now, Nebraska 14-13 winners over Rutgers. Friday night football here. Nebraska's first road win since 2020 Rutgers.
Ooh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Oh,
they're,
yeah. COVID.
and then obviously just the second time, it's the first time they've won 2 Big Ten games in a row since 2018. I mean,
Yeah.
so these are milestones that you can't really scoff at because Nebraska's had a hard time doing this.
Well, let's put it in perspective here. They fired Frost on September 11th, and they fired Shenander on September 18th. And this team's somehow pushing forward.
They're going to play meaningful football next weekend in West Lafayette.
Right, meaningful football mid-October.
October 15th, meaningful football.
How about that? How about that?
Didn't see that coming.
We're going. I mean, that game's a big game. Now, the corner thing that's a huge issue that we'll be writing about this week, because while Rutgers couldn't take full advantage of that, Purdue could. Now, I will say this though. I want to be careful here. Purdue is not throwing the ball well downfield this year. They're not.
So, but it's a tackling game.
Yeah. Purdue has not thrown the ball well downfield.
They have the one kid from Iowa, and that's about it.
Charlie Jones. Charlie Jones has been dynamic, but they have had another receiver hurt. They had a right tackle hurt.
They had good tight end at Purdue.
But yeah, good tight end. I mean, good. I mean, there's a lot of good tight ends in the league, but they're not getting the ball downfield, which is surprising.
I know.
So, no, we're going to Purdue to cover probably another close game.
I mean,
They gotta get Grant's legs back.
Yes, they do.
point spread 6-7 points. Purdue probably.
What do you think about that, Sean?
I can't see it being much more than 7.
No, I think more 4 or 5.
Yeah. I would go 5.5 right now.
Okay.
And then they'll let it decide which way it goes from there.
Okay.
But I think it's gonna be around a touchdown either way.
Yeah.
I mean, Nebraska won't be favored, but going.
We'll see what happens tomorrow.
Yeah, I guess because if Maryland
Purdue gonna play at Maryland. I'm pretty sure it's at Maryland. I don't expect Purdue to win that game, by the way. Now, I don't think that's good news for Nebraska, because Purdue will have to beat Nebraska to stay in it. If they lose to Maryland, which I'm thinking they will. And I'll tell you something. If Purdue beats Maryland, oof.
Then they're talking about winning the West.
Right.
Because they got the tiebreaker on Minnesota,
Yeah.
and they'll want the tiebreaker on Nebraska.
Yeah.
I mean, Purdue's going to be in great.
Huge game tomorrow. If you're a Nebraska fan, I'd be watching Purdue Maryland.
Absolutely.
It's sort of a sneaky, interesting game. It's not even sneaky if you're a Nebraska fan. I mean, you want to scout them. You want to check them out.
Maryland's
See if they
good.
throw the ball down the field.
Maryland's good. So if we'll get a good gauge of what Purdue is actually going to be
Oh, God, yes.
based off that one.
Well, they played Penn State and they played Syracuse.
The battle test.
Purdue's tough.
Probably coming in next week.
What Purdue has got, I'm going to tell you something. The more I talk about it, the more I think a couple things. We're going to be talking a lot about Nebraska's corners, and we got to see what Grant, if they agree. I don't think those guys admit though if his legs were a little.
There wasn't much there to run through.
There wasn't.
Yeah. That goes back to maybe a bigger point is
Rutgers pretty
that
tough.
offensive line. Man.
Oh, we hadn't even talked about Nebraska offensive line. What do you think about that, Rob?
That was as bad of a first half of offensive line play as we've seen in a long time here. They couldn't block anyone. Rutgers
Sean.
wasn't even blitzing.
What do you do at tackle?
I mean,
Good question.
yeah, both sides are
And
a major
leaky
issue.
both
right?
sides. It was leaky
Major
both sides.
issue.
Now, they got better in the second half.
They did.
The protection
They
was
did.
better in the second half.
They saw a lot more four-man rush in the second half too, and they held up.
Maybe Casey was right. Rutgers just got tired.
Got tired of knocking them around for 2 quarters. Yeah, but the defenses Nebraska's going to see are only going to continue to get better than what they saw tonight,
For the most
and
part, yeah.
they had a lot of problems, and we saw Casey can only be durable for so much longer. They're going to get him hurt.
He came out of the. He came
He's
out.
already hurt.
He came out of that tunnel late because he was getting
Yeah,
rewrapped.
he had to take his pads off and rewrap everything. And,
Chubba was out there.
Mhm.
Casey. Well, Casey mentioned. Now, if you go back and listen to the tape, Casey mentioned he had to get cleared. It seemed like.
Yeah, there was question if he was going to return.
Yeah, he had to get cleared. Yeah, Casey's
Don't
tough.
go there.
No. You always hear Mickey say he's tough. You know,
He references Charles. We saw Charles, by the
Yeah.
way, at the team hotel.
Charles Thompson, his dad, who played for Oklahoma, a great wishbone quarterback. Yeah, and Charles was at the hotel. I'm going to have a column on Sunday about Casey says his mom helped too. His mom she'd be on the roof doing stuff. She'd do the yard work. He says his mom was tough too. He said the whole family, that's what we are. We're just a tough crew.
My thing is, as tough as he may be, I don't care who you are, you cannot take that type of beating week in, week out. I mean,
It's getting
3 straight weeks
Yeah,
where
what
he's
was
just
that?
getting smoked.
it's getting code red.
I mean, he's getting highlight level blasted, taking shots to the ribs, getting
Yeah.
driven into the ground. That's bad.
And that's before Jim Leonard in Wisconsin.
Absolutely.
That was
In
Wisconsin don't have a lot this
Michigan.
year.
In Michigan,
Michigan.
in
Iowa.
Minnesota, and Iowa
Michigan.
get their shots.
Michigan.
Yeah, so I mean, if they want him to make it and actually keep this thing going,
Donovan's
a lot
got
of work to do.
Donovan's got to get that line. I mean, I don't know what you do.
Mm.
And the fact that Rutgers was doing that mostly with a 4-man rush,
Yeah.
that's the biggest red flag
Well-
for me. It's not like they were bringing, early on they were
Early
bringing
on
a
they
lot
were,
of heat,
yeah.
but in the second quarter, they were just backing off because their edge guys were winning one-on-one battles easily.
Casey took that late hit penalty early, and I almost felt like Shiano's like, take one. Let's see if he's healthy.
Number 71.
I mean, I think they're like be aggressive. Let's hit him a little bit and
It's
see.
like the boxers getting the punch in after
And
the bell.
they got penalized for it, but I think the Rutgers sideline probably wasn't that disappointed. Let's see if he's healthy. Let's give him a hit. All right, guys, let's go a little
Let's
bit
wrap it
longer
up.
here. We got a few more minutes.
Okay.
We're
Let's
30
wrap
minutes.
it up.
We're not wrapping up yet. We got.
It's past Sip's bedtime.
It is late, but we appreciate you joining us late here, and we're gonna be night again next week in West Lafayette
And probably the week after.
and the week after. So, bye week next week, but
Oh yeah,
Uh,
Illinois, that's what I'm thinking.
Nebraska 14, 13 winners. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett as kind of our final thoughts here. A couple other just things that happened today. Matt Davison announced on the radio after 19 years he will step off the broadcast. And
what's your thought on that, Sean?
it's interesting because we were interviewing him Wednesday about his move, and we got the impression he wanted to stay on the broadcast. And he'll be off. Now, there's two things that come to mind. Who's going to replace Matt Davison? I mean, I think that's going to be a topic this week. Kevin Suits, by the way, keep it going. I'm watching right now. I love it. Thank you, Kevin Suits.
All right, keep talking about Davison.
But Davison, with his new role running the 1890 collective, 1890 initiative, my first thought was running the collective where you're in charge of paying the players going forward. I don't know how you, within a compliance world, can hop on the Nebraska team plane and sit next to Casey Thompson on a Nebraska-funded flight, and then after the game say, hey, by the way, we got this. I mean, I think there were some issues probably, is my guess.
Yeah,
Appearances of your collective person on the team plane, and things like that. And when he told us, I was actually kind of surprised. I'm like, I don't know how that would work. When I was on the broadcast, I never flew on the flights and things like that because I looked at myself as a reporter and, not someone, I reported on the team and stories and, and in that role, you're in the collective and you're.
So they got to find somebody quick.
So yeah, what will they bring somebody up? Like there's a lot of really good people that could do it. I mean, Damon Benning, Jay Foreman, Jay Moore.
Jeremiah Stroles.
Well, Jeremiah Stroles is a sports agent.
Oh, that's right.
So I don't think he can do it. That's why he's off right now.
That's right.
So that will be, a job that a lot of guys will,
It's a big job.
And they might already know who I'm sure that the university already knows who they're going to use, but that will be something to watch this week.
Okay.
Who they put in there. Matt's last day in his office will be Friday.
His last day as a senior associate AD.
Meaning Friday, because he'll be done Friday, because he's not going to travel with the team on Friday now.
Yeah, his job was senior associate AD in charge of external engagement, which is that's a lot of fundraising. But he did help day-to-day football stuff. So yeah, last day Friday, interesting. So he's off the broadcast.
19 years.
We don't know who that will be. That'll be a story this week.
Yeah, and how they announce it. I'm sure Greg Sharp knows who they're going to go with, but yeah, they could go. I've seen Ben McLaughlin on these trips. They could just go. You don't have to be an ex-player to be the color analyst. No. Gary Saddlemeyer, one of my close friends, is one of the best color analysts Nebraska's ever had. He was not a player.
That'd be good.
No, I'm not saying Gary's in line for the job because we're KFAB is not a part of the Husker Sports Network, but I'm just saying you don't have to be an ex-player to be a good color analyst. Gary Saddlemeyer was a great color analyst, and he actually he did kick in college at a small college in Minnesota, but that's something to watch.
Okay, what else? What else we got?
I was going to say this, being around the team at the team hotel. We were there all. It's a night game, so we had a lot of time around guys. But just seeing Mickey around the players, and his presence with them, and how they connect with him, and how he connects with them, that impressed me. Just seeing that dialogue that he has, and just the way he talks to guys, and the way they look at him and talk to him. There's something there. You can see
I think there must be. At halftime I wouldn't have said that. At halftime I would have said, I don't know what kind of connection he's got. They didn't. At halftime, now Mickey in the post game seemed like he was still pretty confident at halftime, which is, now you got to admit, that was a lot different than you were, a lot different than I was, a lot different than Rob was, a lot different than most of the media. We didn't think Nebraska was going to win.
It was kind of like, what a joke.
Yeah, exactly. Call it what it is. I would have said, no, Mickey didn't have his team ready.
I was already I had half my story pre-written.
I'm just being real here. I was saying that in the first half. He didn't have his team ready. These guys weren't ready to play. But they stayed confident. His big theme was, we knew it was going to be a 4-quarter fight. Okay? And it was. He was right. In the end, you give Mickey a lot of credit for keeping that team together.
Well, and that's
strange though. That first half was not.
Well, it wasn't that strange. We've seen that how many times?
Yeah.
It was also their first true road game. Let's not underestimate. And
this
it
team
was
has done that a lot.
it was
That's true.
it wasn't the best crowd, but it was a really good
Pretty
crowd,
good.
and the way they blare that music in here,
Yeah, that's
I
what
mean-
Casey referred to that.
I mean, it felt like you were like at a New Jersey nightclub.
Yeah,
I
with
mean,
the
it
light
was
show and
Have you been to New Jersey?
the
now?
Oasis Wonderwall
maybe
remix.
Robert and I on our first trip here, we peeked in a New Jersey nightclub. That was enough for us.
We did. That was more than enough. But I want to go back to a point on Mickey that you made,
Okay.
where coming out of halftime, like everybody else was throwing in the towel. This thing's over. Like they didn't show up. They don't want to win.
Well, not they weren't.
That's what I'm saying.
We
Around,
were.
yeah, like the
Yeah. We
social
were.
media,
Yeah.
the press box, all that stuff. But Mickey was down there firing guys up, and I think that just goes back to the main reason why he was picked as the interim was because of his motivation and the way that he gets guys to rally
Yep.
together. And you see that in instances like this where sometimes you just need someone to pick you up and lift you up, especially when things aren't going your way.
Mhm.
And Mickey has done that a lot now, especially over the last few games, where he's able to get these guys to rally together and believe in themselves. I think that just belief has been a lacking component to Nebraska football for far too long, and now they got 2 wins. And I think they're starting to actually believe that they can do it and they can win these types of games, even when it's a fight from start to finish.
Rob, add Bush to that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Bill.
You got the two best motivators on staff at the 2 most high-profile positions.
Yeah, Bush, Bush, what he's done with the defense, come on, 2 second half shutouts. They
He
shut
got
out
out some
Indiana.
blitzes tonight too.
Did he?
Oh,
Few of them got home.
Indiana shut out in the second half, Rutgers shut out in the second half. I mean, that's, in like, turnovers, coming up with 3 turnovers, O'Shawn tipping that ball late, I mean, they made plays, and Malcolm getting that late pick, kind of a gift pick there.
Rutgers couldn't throw. I mean, the game, man, I didn't get a chance to hear Shiano's comments, but I'm going to obviously read them when we get back to the hotel, just because that thing just slipped from them. I mean,
It did.
I mean, they should not have lost this
No,
game. I mean,
no.
you're sick right now.
Should have been up, well, I think the score at halftime should have.
27-0.
27 zip, yeah. I mean, they played with fire a little bit by not having a bigger lead at halftime. Give Nebraska some credit for holding it to 13, but come on, Rutgers blew some chances.
Well, I think they were really banking on Noah giving them a spark, and he did early.
Sure did early.
But clearly,
Thumb,
he's not, fully healthy.
thumb.
And that affected
He
him.
had something on his right hand.
And he gave it hell, though. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
but the way he came out, like you could tell,
Ooh.
like
Yeah.
this was like such a meaningful moment in his life to play against Nebraska, who he felt like he didn't get a fair shake. He felt like McCaffrey was pushed over him, and I agree with him. I mean,
McCaffrey, who's McCaffrey?
you think about how he left Nebraska, why he left. I mean, they just gave Luke McCaffrey the spot over him.
Mhm.
And he's better than Luke McCaffrey. Luke McCaffrey can't play quarterback in college anywhere. He couldn't play quarterback at Rice.
Yeah, he's better.
Remember when they benched
better,
Adrian
right.
for Luke McCaffrey?
Yeah.
And I don't blame the Vedrals one bit for leaving
No,
Nebraska.
Sean.
They didn't get a fair shake.
Vedral's a better quarterback than Luke McCaffrey.
I mean, Vedral pushed
Luke
Adrian
McCaffrey's
at
not even a
times.
quarterback.
Right, he's not a quarterback.
You know, I mean, it's just, so for him to get this shot, and it was, too bad for him that he couldn't go out stronger, but, he gave it hell.
Yeah, he did. Tough
The reality is that when your quarterback can't hold on to the football, which towards the end of it, he could barely even throw it,
Right.
I mean, your offense is severely limited. And that was a big part in Nebraska taking the game over in the second half. Rutgers couldn't throw it.
14-13.
All right, final thoughts. We'll wrap up here. Nebraska next week, 6:30 game Central Time at Purdue. So we'll be out there again. Saturday night game again. This will be, we're getting used to these night games. I remember.
Join us on this thing next week.
And we'll figure it out again next week. But I think this worked. I liked the setup with the mics. I mean, I wanted to make sure we had an easy road traveling setup, and we figured this out, guys, and I'm impressed.
Yeah, Sean, you did a good job. You did it. Good job.
Trey, appreciate you. We'll get you on. We'll be ready again next week for you, Trey, and appreciate you on the back end. And thank you again for everyone for watching. Reminder, check out HuskerOnline.com. We've got great post-game coverage up. Steve Stipple's column, Robin's 5 Things, my final takes grades, all posted. all of the videos of the post-game press conference are on the YouTube channel. So if you missed Mickey Joseph or any of the players that were talking after the game, we've got it all. So you can go on Husker Online, our YouTube channel, and we will put this on the podcast channel. So when the show is over, when I get back to the hotel, I will upload this audio so you can listen to it as a podcast as well. So thank you again to Steve Sipple, Robin Washett. We stayed here late for you. It's about 2 a.m. here in New Jersey, and we'll get back to the hotel and back to Lincoln, and looking forward to another week here on Husker Online.